Deacon Malcolm Locke is one of the regular speakers in Pede KKI Melbourne. His messages are always sincere, combined with empathy, vulnerability, and a sense of humor. Deacon Malcolm currently serves in the parish of St. Gregory, Great Doncaster, as well as in his family and today in KOMKIA. Let's give applause to Deacon Malcolm.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. How are we?
Good, we are
Good.
good.
Wonderful.
I am very happy that I've been introduced as a person with a sense of humor. I'll share with you that there was a time when I used humor to hide because I was very afraid of people seeing who I was. So I used to use humor a lot because you can deflect things with that. So I became a very expert at doing that. But now we're using humor to bring smiles and joy to people. So there's a big difference between hiding it and bringing joy to people. I hope everybody is refreshed. Yesterday was a very busy day, and it was good to meet people and to see people that I haven't seen for a long time, particularly those of us who are here in Melbourne. We're in the biggest prison in the world, and still in stage 4 lockdown. Hopefully, we'll come out of that soon. This morning, we're going to be looking at a talk entitled "Small Wins," and I'm going to be using a tool that I've used in the past at one of the prayer groups when we were looking at a few things. Hopefully, we will it will give people some understanding of their journey, and we'll talk about a few things that you can experience on that journey. You know, they say that life is a journey, and I tend to agree with that. That we have many little journeys in this life, but one big one heading towards Jesus. So we're going to look at this what was called a labyrinth. Can I have the labyrinth on the screen?
Yeah, we will. We have prepared it. But we will start this morning by a short praise and worship by
Okay.
one of our friends, Joshua.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah, and then we'll
okay.
prepare the labyrinth ready.
I will mute myself and sing in silence.
I'm sorry. I have the song on Indonesian. But it's okay, I guess, as long as we worship the Lord in every language. Is that correct? Okay. Um, Let me start. I'm new to this. I'm sorry if there's any technical difficulties or something. Let's do this. Mari teman-teman, kita siapkan hati kita untuk mendengarkan ajaran pada pagi hari ini. Untuk setiap small wins yang sudah kita capai di uni, di rumah, di keluarga, mungkin makan tadi pagi. Kita sama-sama siapin hati kita untuk mendengarkan Deacon Malcolm. Banyak yang kau perbuat di dalam hidupku, rancangan indahmu terjadi di hidupku. Bapa yang mengerti segala yang ku perlu, kasih-Mu sempurna nyata dalam hidupku. Ku bersyukur Bapa, ku bersyukur Tuhan. setiamu di dalam hidupku. Ku bersyukur, ku bersyukur Bapa, ku bersyukur Tuhan buat kasih setiamu di dalam hidupku. Ku bersyukur Tuhan. Banyak yang kau perbuat di dalam hidupku. Rancangan indahmu terjadi di hidupku. Bapa yang mengerti segala yang ku perlu, kasih-Mu sempurna nyata dalam hidupku. Ku bersyukur Bapa, ku bersyukur Tuhan buat kasih setiamu di dalam hidupku. Ku bersyukur, ku bersyukur Bapa, ku bersyukur Tuhan buat kasih setiamu di dalam hidupku. Ku bersyukur Tuhan. Tak ada lembah kelam yang tak ku lewati tanpa hadir-Mu. Hatiku takkan gentar sebab ku tahu tangan-Mu yang menopangku. Tak ada lembah kelam yang tak ku lewati tanpa hadir-Mu. Hatiku takkan gentar sebab ku tahu tangan-Mu yang menopangku. Kaulah Yesus, Kaulah Tuhan, hanya Kau ku percaya. Kaulah Yesus, Kaulah Tuhan, harapan hidupku. Ku bersyukur Bapa, ku bersyukur Tuhan buat kasih setiamu di dalam hidupku. Ku bersyukur, ku kasih setiamu di dalam hidupku. Ku bersyukur, ku bersyukur Bapa. Ku bersyukur Tuhan buat kasih setiamu di dalam hidupku. Ku bersyukur, ku bersyukur Bapa. Ku bersyukur Tuhan buat kasih setiamu di dalam hidupku. Bersyukur Tuhan.
Thank you, mate. That was brilliant. Your first time, it sounds, you sound very, very experienced. Hopefully you'll do that many, many more times. It really brings people in. Music is wonderful. It brings people into a situation where they can reflect in prayer. So well done. Thank you very much. As I was saying before, small wins. I hopefully after this talk that people understand that on this journey we have life in faith, that there are situations that make us grow stronger, but at the time it doesn't feel that way. So hopefully we'll understand that as we're journeying towards a goal of Jesus, that there will be obstacles in our way, and the journey that it goes in many different directions, and sometimes you even feel lost. But as long as you keep moving, you're okay. And it's always important to remember that on this journey, we're not alone. We are not only traveling with the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but we're traveling with people within our community to help and guide us. So if I could have the labyrinth on the screen, that would be brilliant. There we go. This circle is called a labyrinth. If you went to Campion, in the Campion Retreat Centre in Kew here in Melbourne, they have one of these on the ground outside, and you walk it, you journey along it. So it's huge, and you walk, you follow the path, and it leads to somewhere. If you look right at the bottom, you can see the entrance there, and right in the middle is the goal, is where you encounter God in the deepest way, where you and God are one together. But you can also use a labyrinth as a journey in relationship. A guy meets a girl and they fall in love, and this could be the journey that they have together until they reach the middle, which could be either marriage or even after marriage is death. So it's just a journey of life, and we're going to go along this journey, and we're going to see what the things we can encounter and how we are, and how that brings us into an understanding of what's happening. Okay, the first thing, if you look and you can point and touch the bottom of the labyrinth, the circle, the entrance, where we begin our journey. And the first thing that is important to understand is that even just to get to the entrance is an achievement. You've done well. You know, I've journeyed with over 100 people who have come into the church, who were not Christian, who were inquiring, and they've come to the church, and we've gone through a whole program through RCIA and other things to bring them into a point where they receive the sacraments of baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist. And I can tell you that the Holy Spirit has been working with them all the way through their lives so that they could get to the beginning of this journey. So just getting to the beginning of the journey is an accomplishment. You know, in your own lives, when you start to have a journey of faith, there are certain things that you've had to have gone through before you get to the entrance of where you start your journey of faith. My own story is that, as I said yesterday, I wasn't always a Catholic. I had to journey to a position where I could decide that I wanted to become a Catholic. And I know that journey took at least 5 years. It took me 5 years consciously knowing to get to the beginning, the entrance of my journey. 5 years is a long time. But the Holy Spirit, even though I was not received into the church, didn't have confirmation, the Holy Spirit was always working with me to get me to the doorway. And we have to recognize that the Holy Spirit does that. At the time, you don't know that, because I didn't know what the Holy Spirit was. And I couldn't understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling and why I was walking in a certain direction, a direction that I didn't want to go, because I had some big problems with the Catholic Church. So I had to, the Holy Spirit had to work with me just to get me to the entrance of this journey. And as I said, it took 5 years. In that 5 years of getting there, I had tremendous support of prayer. I have a very good friend who knows myself and Mariola, my wife. And whenever she introduces Mariola, she says, "This is the person who prayed Malcolm into the church." She never told me I had to be a Catholic. She never put any pressure on me. All she did was pray in silence, in secret. There's a hint there. You don't force people to do anything. If you love them and you want them to experience God's love, you pray for them. Be serious about your prayer. You know, we've met many wives who pray for their husbands, and Mariola is quite critical. She says, "What are you praying for, and how are you praying? Are you praying that your husband comes into a relationship with Jesus as a and you add it on to your normal prayers? That's not serious. You need to get serious about your prayer, and that is this: that you dedicate a certain time in your day, say 3 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock you pray only for your husband or for the person that you want to take this journey. You pray, you seriously, and you do it every day. At 3 o'clock, you pray only for that person. That means you are serious, because it takes love to commit your time and your prayer to one other person. So it's worth thinking about. Is there someone that you know who you would like to encounter the love of Jesus, but they're not interested? They don't want to. They think you're mad. Every time you talk or you mention God, they have a blank look over their faces. Do you know anybody like that? There are people that we meet like that. Do not force them. All you have to do, if you really want them to begin this journey, just dedicate some time in your day. It doesn't have to be long. It could be 10 minutes. It could be 15. Something that you can manage, and then just dedicate that whole time to them, and you will begin to see change in them. You know, we have relatives in Poland, and one of the sons of one of Mariola's cousins had wandered far away from the church. And you know what she did? His mum got a miraculous medal of Mary, and she put it under his mattress. That's all she did. She put it under his mattress, and things began to happen. He began to come back slowly to where to the church. He began to start living a life of a person who cared and who was exploring faith, all because mum didn't know what else to do. She just put a miraculous medal under his bed. hid it from him. They never told him. He never knew. But he had this wonderful journey, because the Holy Spirit knows where we need to be and will help us get to the beginning of our journey here. Can we see that beginning? You'll recognize this beginning, and remember, we need to get to the middle of this circle. So if you just trace your finger around from the beginning, and then it goes left, and it comes up left, and then it goes right, and then around, and then up again, and then around, and very quickly you are right next to the circle in the middle. You are so close to the goal, you can almost touch it. This is the euphoric time in a journey of faith. There are a time when you suddenly experience the love of God, that you feel this presence always with you, and you want other people to journey with you because it's so good for you. Why can't you come with me? And this is a time we have to be careful of, because we can become insensitive to other people's needs, because we want them to come with us, because I'm doing this, I'm experiencing this wonderful love in such a magnificent way. You can do the same. All you have to do is come do this, and it's so easy because it's at the beginning of the journey. And this is the time when we become insensitive and we start talking to people. Anybody in the street, what do? Oh, you do this, and Jesus is the answer. And it's confusing, because when people hear that, they wander away. This journey takes time, and we don't know. We want people to come with us straight away to the middle who haven't even begun the journey. We have to be aware that this is part of the journey. It's the same in a relationship. When a guy meets a girl and they begin their relationship together, it's wonderful. You dream about each other. You want to spend time with each other. You call each other at 2 o'clock in the morning just, to say good night. It's such a wonderful feeling, that first experience of love. It's the same in our relationship with God. You really, and it doesn't matter what the other person does. You just love them so much, and you just want to be with them, and just to look at them and to see them. And if you can't see them, it's uncomfortable for you. It's the same here. So you're right next to, very early on in the journey, you've got this experience of God. And I know in my own case, it was when I was praying. As soon as I sat down to pray, I would experience this warmth in my heart. It was sometimes it got so much that I couldn't stand it anymore. It was this warmth of love. But I longed for that. As soon as I sat down, I would feel this love. I'd feel this warmth in my heart. So when I was doing my day, I couldn't wait to sit down and pray to feel this, because I was so close. But I wanted others to be there with me, and I couldn't understand why they didn't want the same thing. And I remember I was at a wedding of my nephew, and there was a lady who was sitting at our table who I'd known for a few years, but I didn't really like her. We didn't really get on. She was nice enough, but the relationship was a bit, and she was asking me, "What are you doing?" And I thought, I don't care. I'm just going to blast her with this and say what Jesus is doing for me and how she can get the same thing, And I did, because I thought, oh, well, she's going to judge me anyway. She's not going to like me. It doesn't matter. So I'll just tell her the truth. I don't know if you've ever felt that way. That lady, because of the way I was and because of what I said, joined a prayer group. And she's been with that prayer group 25 years. So from that wedding, and from my anger with her, and from my insensitivity, even when you're insensitive, sometimes the Holy Spirit can work in that. So don't be afraid that you might be putting people off and say, oh, I won't say anything. The Holy Spirit can transform our actions into something holy. And this lady, she got a lot out of it, and she's been with, as I said, with a prayer group 25 years. And she looks every Monday night when they were allowed to meet. She never missed a meeting, except when she went overseas. But even when she was overseas, she made some really good friends and praying together. So even when we're being insensitive, the Holy Spirit can also help us, help the other person. Sometimes it puts people off. I know I've met people that have been, I worked with some Pentecostal guys who actually put me off religion because they were so over the top, and I thought they were always judging me. And we tend to do that. So we have to be careful. But again, they were like that. But again, I had a conversion. So it still happens. So the first thing is that early on in the journey, we are very, very close to God. We're very close to the center. We experience a lot. And that happens with lots of things in life, in relationships between men and women, and in our other journeys that we go on. The next thing, if we go out a little bit to the left, we can see that the path, it comes up and then it turns, we're right next to the center. And if we continue up, it then turns left and we start our journey down, and then it turns right. And then do you notice that as we're journeying, we are moving away from the center? This is when we start to go through that stage in our journey of when we're leaving the euphoria. And then after that, we might even encounter some troubles in our journey, because the Holy Spirit is working on us, and we have to let go of a few things. Things like pride, ego. These things are obstacles to us. Pride and ego, where they are the things that prevent us from serving and from loving others. And as we continue our journey, the Holy Spirit is working on us so that we can let go of these things in our lives that are holding us back. It's very important that we go through this, but it's not easy. And sometimes it can be painful, and sometimes we can feel alone. So as we continue our journey, you'll notice in the labyrinth, we're journeying forward, but we're actually moving away from the middle. And this can be quite disconcerting. And as we're journeying, as you can see in this journey, we're going up, and then we're turning left, and then we're going back down again. Again, still further away from the middle. But as we're going down, we're walking right next to the path where we were walking a few minutes ago. But we're walking in a different direction. What's that about? Have you ever felt in your faith journey or your relationship journey that you seem to be doing 180-degree turns and going back in a different direction? You're quite confident, I'm going in this way, and then all of a sudden something happens and you turn and you start to walk in a different direction. When we are journeying in life, sometimes we do walk in the wrong direction. We're supposed to go somewhere. We're supposed to go north, and we go south. Is that wrong? Should we feel guilty about going in the wrong direction? In Luke 24, verse 13 and following, is a story called the journey to Emmaus. What happened is this: that after Jesus is crucified, the disciples are staying in Jerusalem. But they are told, stay in Jerusalem. Two of the disciples decide they've had enough. They're going to go back home. They're going to Emmaus. So they leave Jerusalem and they start to walk to Emmaus in the wrong direction. They're supposed to stay in Jerusalem. They're walking away from where they're supposed to be. When they're on the road, Jesus comes to them, but they don't recognize him. They don't recognize who he is. And he says to them, where are you going? And what's happening in your lives? And they say, are you the only one who's been in Jerusalem who hasn't heard? We thought he was the Messiah, and he's turned out not to be the Messiah. He's dead. Have you not heard this? And then as they're walking away, Jesus opens up the scriptures and he begins to explain to them how the death of Jesus was prophesied by all the prophets of the Old Testaments. But do you notice one thing? What's Jesus doing? He's walking with them in the wrong direction. There's something here that we need to understand. Sometimes when we are journeying with a person who is having a journey to faith, and we know and we can see they're walking in the wrong directions, we stand in front of them, we say, stop, you're going in the wrong direction, turn around. Jesus didn't do that. Jesus walked with them, accompanied them on their journey, even though it was in the wrong direction. But he did explain why they needed to go back without telling them to go back. We need to do the same. If we are journeying with a person who we think is walking in the, don't instruct them to change direction. Journey with them, encourage them, support them, and love them. Because it's only the Holy Spirit that can convince a person to turn around. And that happened with the two disciples because it was getting late in the day. And they said, oh, we need to go to a place of rest and we need to eat. And Jesus said, okay, I'll leave you. I'll continue on the journey. And they said, no, come with us and share a meal with us. And Jesus said, yes, he agreed. And as they were sitting down, what did Jesus do? He took bread. He gave the Father a blessing and he broke the bread. Do you recognize that? That's the Eucharist, the Last Supper. The disciples, all of a sudden, they saw Jesus doing this. They realized who he was. And then it says, all of a sudden, Jesus was disappeared. He was gone. And the two disciples were on their own. They looked at each other and they said, where are we supposed to be? Jerusalem. They didn't wait. They didn't wait till morning. They went straight away. They turned around and went back to Jerusalem, where when they got there, they told the disciples what had happened. And the other disciples said, you won't believe it, but Jesus has appeared to us here as well. And they suddenly realized that it wasn't the end. Jesus' death wasn't the end. It was a beginning. So we can say the same. On our journey of faith, sometimes we get discouraged. And we think, I've got to do something different because it's not happening. And we turn around and we walk again in the wrong direction. It's okay. Because the Holy Spirit understands, and the Holy Spirit will fill us with his love and his wisdom. And we will see where we need to go, and we can turn around and go back on a different path. We don't have to go back the same way. We go on a different path. But it's a learning experience for us. There are many times I can recognize in my own spiritual journey where I've taken the wrong path. But I've taken the wrong path. It's not led me to somewhere disastrous. It's shown me another side of who I am and who God is and who Jesus is and the Holy Spirit. And you come into a deeper relationship. And I think to myself, thank God I took the wrong path, because I know Jesus in a new way. And if I know him in a new way, I know him in a way that I wouldn't have known him before, it's all the more special. So in our own journeys, don't be afraid of walking in the wrong path, the wrong way. If you're journeying with somebody and they're walking in the wrong direction, please, please, please do not stand in front and be an obstacle. Journey with them, hold their hand, love them, but journey with them, and let the Holy Spirit is the only one that we need to listen to. And if the Holy Spirit is not speaking in me, then I need to be silent. We need to be silent. And when we speak, let the Holy Spirit speak through us. The other part about this journey is this. As we journey around and around, we're getting further and further away, and then we end up in the pathway at the very edge, end of the very edge of the labyrinth, the circle. Can you see the very last pathway on the left-hand side? Look how far away you are now from the middle. And this is a time also that's when I was walking this labyrinth, I suddenly stopped in there and I looked across and said, I'm so far away from where I'm supposed to be going. And sometimes we feel that way too, that in this journey, we feel alone, that we feel so far away from God. And we wonder, but the reality is this: am I further away from the beginning or am I closer? The reality is that you are closer. Even though it looks further away, you are actually closer to God because you take all this journey. And from this point on, we start to go back into the middle. So just because we feel that we are distant from God, and doesn't mean that we're further away. I had a very good friend, have a very good friend. He's now a priest, a Franciscan priest. And he was telling me one day that he was like me, that in this beginning of the journey, when he was praying, he would experience this warmth in his heart. And he said, now I don't feel this warmth in my heart when I'm praying anymore. And I'm wondering, what am I doing wrong? Because I don't experience God in the same way. What am I doing wrong? And he kept blaming himself, saying, I must be doing something wrong. There must be something more I can do because I want to feel the same way that I used to feel. And then after about 2 or 3 months, it took 2 or 3 months, he worked it out in his prayer. He had a dream. And the dream was Jesus was speaking to him and said, when you were a baby, I fed you milk. Now that you're a man, I feed you meat. I couldn't feed you meat when you were a baby. And now you're too old for milk. And he realized what he was saying was he no longer needed to feel that way in his prayer, that Jesus had a new way for him. Keep walking, keep journeying, and you will experience a new way of being with the Lord. And he said, as he began to begin his journey again and stop blaming himself, in his prayer, he began to experience love in a new way. Not that tingling in his heart anymore, but in his entire body, he would begin to feel the presence of God. He felt like he was sitting with Jesus right in front of him, like he was if he was with the Blessed Sacrament. When he would, so again, it's different. But because you are closer, the experience of Jesus is different, is stronger, is more personal, because the relationship between you and Jesus is developing, is growing. It's like when you're in love with another person. As you journey together, your love grows and deepens and changes. Change is not bad. Sometimes it's important. As I said to you yesterday, I've been married 43 years. Do you think my love is the same as it was in the first year? No. It's a lot different. It's a lot closer. It's a lot deeper. We can sit together and not talk to each other, and yet we understand what each other is doing without words. That takes time. It's taken 43 years. It takes time to learn. You know, when I first got married, I used to say that Mariola was my wife. She's my wife, like I own her. It took me a long time to realize that she's not mine and that she's not wife. But before she was married, before she was a mum, she was a person. And that person still is there. And I love the person, not my wife. I love the woman who chooses to stay with me every day. We choose to stay with each other and be married every day because that's what we want. But well, you have to recognize that the person is not your boyfriend, not your girlfriend, but a person who is in relationship with you. It deepens your understanding of the other. Then you care about what the other person needs. You know, when I'm giving instruction to young people who want to get married, I hate the word compromise. Everybody thinks, oh, in a relationship, you have to compromise. You don't have to compromise. If you love the other person, your whole being should be orientated around what do we need to do for this other person to be fulfilled? And what do I need to be fulfilled? And how do we work together to fulfill each other? No one is missing out. We are working together for fulfillment. It's the same with Jesus. It's not, oh, I'm in relationship with Jesus. What do I need to do for Jesus? I'm in relationship. How do we fulfill each other? What does Jesus want me to do to answer my call? What must I do to deepen my relationship with him? He is the priority. This is the journey that we have. Eventually, in this labyrinth, we come to the middle. After a long journey, we have completed and we have come to the journey. It's the home run. We have made many journeys like this in our life where we make a home run. The first for me was a relationship, a big one, when I was in a relationship and journeying with Jesus. A second one was a relationship like this towards diaconate. At the beginning of the labyrinth, I had no idea what deacon was. The middle for me was ordination. So I did all that just to get to ordination. In marriage, it's the same. When we first met is the beginning. When we get to the middle, we exchange the vows, and we went all through all of this to get to that. We are the same. Boyfriend and girlfriend, if you are meant to be together, you have to take this journey together. And the end is you get to the middle where you've made the home run, where you understand each other, where this person that you're journeying with, your boyfriend or your girlfriend, is no longer your boyfriend or your girlfriend, but the person you would die for. It takes a long time to get there. In life, we have to make many of these journeys, but for today, in answering the call, small wins. I hope this talk today helps us to understand that that a life of faith and a life of answering is a journey, and that we need to step. The worst thing that we can do is to stand still and do nothing because we're depressed. We need to keep walking. People will walk with us, but you and I need to take the steps. We need to take the steps. Like in the gospel we had yesterday for the Lectio Divina and the gospel for the Mass today, is that the last lot of people who were called, the good and the bad, they had to go. They had to move from there to the wedding feast. They had to take that journey. Okay. Thank you for that. I think we now go into groups where we have a bit of a discussion, and then we'll come back for some question and answers. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Deacon Malcolm, for that. And then we will go to our breakout rooms. IP is